Hi, welcome to Hope in the Light of Suicide. I'm Tammy White, along here with
Bonnie Snyder,
my co-host. Yay! Staying warm today. It is freezing out there.
This is, one of my sister back in Kansas. She was, talking about how cold it was back there, and I'm like, yeah. And then another friend who lives here said something about, I want Florida back. And I'm like, I'm with you. Yeah, no, I don't do cold. I moved here to get away from the cold.
Me too, and it is drizzly and rainy, and
it's nasty.
And we both had to be out early this morning to go and do some stuff. So yeah, but it's nice and toasty warm here in the studio. So.
It is.
Anyways, so. Welcome again. Again, we want to thank Rob and John and everybody. And, I mentioned to you a little while ago, we have our new Facebook page for the show, Hope in the Light of Suicide. And I remember it was last night or this morning, I looked and our likes are ticking up like really fast. And we're up to 129. Just in a real short period of time.
I was really excited, to see that, people are liking the page, of course, with that, we asked, those of you all that like the page and, support the show, to share the page. And, when you tune in, for an episode, please, share the episode, because the more people we can have, to help us get this message out, the better. But yeah, I was excited to see in just that short time how many likes. It was like a kid in a candy store.
Oh, I know. Every time my phone would ding, 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 and I was like, oh, it's for that. So yeah, and if you have any comments or have, certain things you want us to talk about, or you want to comment on suggestions, please put something in the comments, and so that we really want to interact more with you guys, as much as we can. So it's not just us sitting here talking to you, so that you can be a part of it too.
Well, I mean, if you think about the reason why, we started this, it was, to bring awareness. And it's more than just, our story.
Right.
Bringing our story and being able to, be open and raw, about our experiences and the journey that we've gone to, while at the same time, sharing, grief and what that means, and, the process, that the process is different for everybody else. It is about, those of y'all, I think about people who tune in. Mm-hmm. I call them our faithful followers. And each one, has their own unique and different reasons for tuning in. And, like you said, being able to be interactive with the audience and giving, you all an opportunity to, participate. So, like Tammy said, please,
keep it coming too. And, there's several ways that you can contact us, specifically for the show or for the foundation. But, you can message us through the Facebook page. You can comment on the Facebook page. We also have an email specifically for the Facebook page, Hope TV show at BobbyWhiteFoundation.org, I think. Yeah, there it is.
It's up there.
There it is. And then, too, if you even want to, call us, our number's available, and you can call the office. So those are ways you can support us, support the foundation through the foundation page, and there's different contact information specifically for the Facebook page or for the foundation. And also, if you want to, help support us financially, so that we can keep bringing this information to you, we have our Kindest page. And there's all different levels of support, whatever you feel comfortable with. You can, make your own amount, or we got preset amounts, and you can click on that QR code and it'll take you directly to that page right there. And also, I think we have a PayPal button, a donation button on the foundation website, and there's a page on the website that's Hope TV Show, and you can go to that page and pick all. This is our 51st episode, so all 51 episodes are available on demand on that page. That makes it real easy to find any episode that you want to watch and like
and it's
share.
really, I don't know how I want to characterize this, but it's something, it's something to go back. That's been, part of this weekend, going back and revisiting the earlier shows and looking at our growth, where where we've gotten to, this journey that we've been on. I'm like, oh my gosh. Then there were some nuances that I'm like, my favorite one, you're going to chuckle at this one. I started counting how many times you and I say,
Oh, really?
That is, I was like, that's our favorite word.
Really?
And I was thinking it was, just me. It was just me. But I'm like, I can't wait to see Tammy, can't wait to the studio.
How we got better with our ums? Because in the
We
beginning,
replaced the ums with the But, it's interesting because we could use that as a metaphor for growth. Because if you think about it, when you first start this journey, everything is foggy and cloudy, and you don't know, where you're going. Is this really happening? And as you progress, the the fuddling, I guess, for lack of a better word, becomes I might be okay.
well, and sometimes when you're going through pretty much whatever journey it is, whether it be, the lost survivors like us, our personal lives, or with the show, you don't see the progression, and sometimes you don't even feel it. And I've had, my neighbors told me several times, because I'll make a comment, I've said before, I just really don't feel like I've gotten anywhere. And she reminds me and starts, listing off all this stuff, and I was like, well, okay, yeah, I guess you're right, but I guess, I'll have to go back and look at some of the first shows. It's been a while.
I so chuckled at it. I'm like, it made me think of when I was it was my first year of a doctoral program, and we were doing interviewing, clinical interviewing, and whenever we did an interview with somebody, part of the assignment was we had to translate the interview verbatim, typed out. An hour interview could take you 8 to 10 hours to type out, and you couldn't leave out. So if you said, all of that. I mean, when they said verbatim, they meant verbatim.
Right.
And I think of that exercise now. Going back, this was every interview that we did. We had to do this. When I sit back and I think about it, I liken it to dealing with anything stressful, because it gives you like I don't want to say out of body, but for lack of a better way to put it, an out of body step away from yourself view as to what's going on, and you're like, like your friend. I don't feel like I have had any growth. I don't feel like I've made any progress. And people who are not us, or you see that growth. And for me, when people point out, what about this? What about this? What about the other? I take a step back. I didn't think about that.
Yeah. Because we're in it.
And so much in our own heads.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and you also, you could go around wearing our T-shirts.
Yes.
We've got 2 T-shirt designs. The first one we did kind of reminiscent of our Purple Folder program. And then and there's men and women styles, and then the second one is kind of a little bit more reflective of the show, a little bit. And the back of those T-shirts say it has a Bobby White Foundation logo on them. So, and the colors are in the suicide prevention colors, turquoise and green. But hopefully we're going to be having, I don't know if it's available or not. I haven't even looked at the website in a little while, which is really bad on my part. She was going to go through and find different colored T-shirts and have them available instead of just the gray. I don't know that we'll have white available, and that's kind of like a me thing, because a white T-shirt I can wear one day and it's ruined, you know. So, but you can go on the website there and find out. And we do have some still available at the foundation office also.
I think what I find with people with the white T-shirts, so we've done T-shirts for some of the events that we've done, and do white. And like you, like white, that's going to get dirty, and the first time, I'm eating something and it's all over. But I think most people find the white is cool. It doesn't absorb much heat. I'm biased. I love the gray.
I think the gray is kind of
neutral.
Yeah. And you can still make a little bit of a mess, and it doesn't show up as quick as
Yeah, and I find the gray is not too. It's not too hot.
It's not too. It's kind of like the white for Florida. It is pretty light. So, yeah. But those are available, and you can order them from anywhere, because on that website, they'll ship the T-shirts directly to you. So we got that kindness page. You think of anything? What am I missing?
Hampton Inn, or not the Hampton Inn? I'm thinking the hotel. This is the garden.
Hilton Garden Inn. Hilton Garden Inn. Yeah, we're actually tentatively have scheduled 5th annual Art for Hope. Keep our fingers crossed that things keep going okay, or turn to a good swing with this pandemic thing, and it'll be at the Hilton Garden Inn, which they've been a great support. That's the old one. We're going to have a committee meeting here, I'm hoping maybe next week. So the tentative date, which is in September, the week of National Suicide Prevention Week. So we moved the day from a Friday to a Thursday night. And so when we have our committee meeting, but tentatively I think it's September 8th. And there's artwork hung out there all through the main floor, and in a couple of the conference rooms, that the proceeds from the sale of those art pieces go to the foundation. And they're all local artists here that I represent. We've got a Florida artist, Florida landscaping, real Florida type art, and then abstract art, stuff like that. So
there's something for everybody.
Yeah, there is, and plus I even have more of the same artist's work at the gallery. So and some of that stuff is specifically going to be for the foundation. And when we do have Art for Hope, that's what we feature, is local artists, and we're going to expand it from not just artists but art crafters. And then also have, I'm hoping, and I'm sure that we'll get them there, we'll have NAMI there, Ian's Way, other community organizations that we collaborate with and work around and have all that.
You know what I think would be awesome for Art for Hope? What? Just kind of throwing it out there. Have you ever thought about doing a Tammy White piece?
I have, and if I can get this going, I was going to try and do it for this past year, but everything being the way that it is, and I have to get. I'm working on a different project, and it may have to end up being mixed media or a painting or something, but with my business, I have a ton of scrap glass, and you can't recycle that.
Right.
And I have a kiln that I purchased about 2 years ago, but I don't have enough power to my shop. And so I'm trying to get power ran to my shop and do some fused glass, recycle the glass from my art and framing business, which I got a ton of, and make pieces for that.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Keep my fingers crossed. I've got the estimate to run the power back there, but this kiln I just don't have enough power. And he said that if I switched it on, I'd probably blow the fuse every single time, or I could only have the kiln running. And when it came out the first time he said you could only have the kiln running, you couldn't run anything else out here. And I was like, okay, well, I probably wouldn't anyways because it's going to get warm out there. And then when he came back the second time, he looked at it again and he goes, you have to run more power out here. It's going to trip it every time. So that's like one of the major projects to get started. But yeah, that's been kind of.
I mean, didn't mean to put you on the spot there.
Right.
But, on second thought, because I think about, excuse me, the foundation, and this was your vision. This started as a vision from you. And
well, actually, it really
don't even with me.
It was. I mean, it kind of was, but it kind of wasn't.
Don't stop.
And we went with the art thing because that's my thing. We would like to even sometime. My nephew, he kind of wants to do this, and I think it would be a good idea. We just have to. COVID has put so much stuff on hold because Bobby's thing, extracurricular activity, I guess you would say, that he really loved was fishing. Him and his dad loved to go fishing, or his brother. And my nephew loves to fish and has been in a couple tournaments. So we would really like to maybe, because we have Art for Hope in the kind of the fall, and maybe do a fishing tournament in the spring.
That makes me think of, and I got some exciting news. I think you should have gotten an email.
I know, I was just going to say that too.
From Kim?
Yes.
When I think of the fishing, tournament, I know that each year, out in the Dade City area, with Lacucci River Park, the Parks and Recreation puts on, or sponsors, hosts a family fishing day, where I don't know who they get to sponsor it, but they give away fishing gear, and people, families come out, they sign up, they're given their fishing rods. It's a big to-do. I've gone out a couple of times, setting up a vendor table for one of the organizations, coalitions that I work for. So I know, I'm confident that doing something fishing related would be a big hit. Speaking of Parks and Rec,
yes.
I was really...
Actually, Deanna called me too last night. I got the email after I got your text, and then Deanna called me.
Yeah, I was, if you guys remember, we had, Kim Miller from Parks and Recreation on, they did the... Recreate Your Mind, the suicide, run, walk.
Stomp Out Suicide.
Stomp Out Suicide. Yeah. We went out and sponsored it. They are being recognized for that event. And I was really excited when Kim called me yesterday and said, hey, this is a big to-do. This is from what I understand, it's a statewide recognition, which I thought was like so... what's the word? Proud is not the word I want to use. Excited for them. Right. That they would get this recognition.
Especially it was their first event.
Yes. Yes. And finding things like, when you think of, Parks and Rec and, other things like that you don't ordinarily connect with, grief and suicide, Parks and Rec. I think, some people will say, oh, the only time that I would connect, suicide to Parks and Rec is we found the body out in the park somewhere.
Right, yeah.
They don't look at it from the recovering from grief.
The healing
side.
The
of it,
healing
yes.
process, yeah.
And
Oh, most definitely.
yeah, so I was really, 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 super, super excited for her to, for them to be given this honor, and the forward momentum that they are gaining, with that department to bring, awareness, to suicide. Like us, that Parks and Recreation family, suffered a loss.
Right.
And, so I wanted to give a shout out to, Kim Miller and Deanna and, their staff for not only that event, but for being recognized.
Yeah,
as well.
it's really cool. And they are working on, we're working on a second event, hopefully for this spring on the west side of the county. And so Deanna said that they're probably going to start having meetings here shortly, and so we're going to be involved in that too.
Nice.
So that's gonna, that's going to be really cool. Yeah, I'm excited. I was like, oh yeah, that's really cool. And then Deanna calls, and I was like, wow, okay, let's get this going. So yeah, that was that's good. So yeah, so things are we're getting a little bit of forward momentum. It seems like sometimes, going back to, what we were talking about before, is sometimes you just kind of like feel like you're spinning your wheels and not getting anywhere. But I had mentioned to you just before the show that I was at a breakfast this morning, and Congressman Gus Bilirakis was our speaker. And I've been, not so much really during the pandemic, because it's, been a lot of places or organizations, you can't get in front of people. So, but prior to that, for a while, I've been trying to get in front of him and to be able to talk to him. He's really big on Veterans Affairs. And so he was speaking and mentioned suicide in our counties, particularly Pasco, Pinellas, and Hillsborough. That's his area that he covers. And some of my friends that were there, they turn around and they look at me, and I'm like, yeah, So I was able to speak with him afterwards, but during his what he did mention was our area, those 3 counties, are second in the state of Florida for suicide deaths.
Wow.
And, so, I mean, that's not what you would consider all of Tampa Bay, but these are 3 of the main counties in Tampa Bay. So that, that was really something. So I was able to speak with him after the meeting, and I will be having a meeting at his office with him this week before he goes back to Washington. And we will be, hopefully in the near future, have him on our show.
Let's cross our fingers.
So I was really excited about that this morning, and even though it was dreary and freezing cold outside, I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to go to this breakfast. And then I was like, no, you have to go. Congressman's going to be there. You've been trying to get in front of him forever, and this is the chance. And
I was so bummed that I missed that meeting. I had a doctor's appointment this morning.
Yeah.
And as I'm driving, when I had to leave for the doctor's appointment, I decided to drive into Tampa for this one, was the same time as the meeting. And I'm
Right.
like, too bad my appointment wasn't here local, because I would have loved to have been there to hear that talk.
Yeah, it was good hearing from him. Our producer John was there also. Mm-hmm. So so that's some exciting news coming up and getting some more information, and him getting to know about what we do. And, like I said, with whatever the organization is, when it comes to suicide, we've all got to work together. And this is just like another part of that.
Putting some more teeth behind it.
Yeah,
putting some teeth behind it.
so that's exciting news. And I'm like making sure my phones are charged and, with me, or now they're not going to ring during the show. I promise. I did turn them off, but yeah, so I'm not going to miss that phone call. So that's really exciting news. So you didn't do your homework.
Interestingly, Tammy just put me on blast, y'all. She really just put me on blast. It was funny this morning, when you text me, it's like, did you do your homework? First my brain was, what homework? And then it dawned on me, oh yeah, that homework. But it was interesting, looking at the homework. I was like, oh, okay, I think back to when I was in school, when you can get away with doing your homework like in class, right before the teacher says turn it in. But at the same time, hearing, getting that text message, hey, did you do your homework for the show today? It was a stark reminder of, not only what the homework assignment was, but it became a teachable moment, to what the homework assignment was, because a good portion of it was to jot down accomplishments that you've done during the week. Because I think sometimes what happens when we are immersed in grief, and we tend to lose ourselves in ourselves and forget to either take time for ourselves or celebrate those little mini accomplishments, and those mini accomplishments could be something like, I made the bed this morning. And for some people, it's like, well, that's not a big deal. But at the same time, you sit back and you're like, all right, when your journey started, how many times did you not make the bed? How many times did you not get out of bed? Mm-hmm. And so, having that little accomplishment of, I got out of bed, is huge for some, some people, like, everybody gets out of bed every day. Not always.
Yeah.
And when I hear, when you said, for instance, when you say, I haven't made any growth, or I don't see any growth, or I don't, I feel like I'm in that same place, and other people point out, but what about this? But what about this? And what about this? It's like, oh yeah, that's right. So I found with this particular homework assignment that I didn't do, but but at the same time, I want to. All right, teacher, I'm not going to get a 0 on this, because I can say, well,
you're using it in a different way.
Well, and I mean, like I say, well, in this, like, I know what I used to hear a lot, for myself, and what when I'm talking to other people, is not taking care of self. I was sitting with my supervisor the other day, and she made this comment about, self-care. And it's very interesting, because I forget, something was going on with my grandchildren, and somebody, in our agency called our manager and said, is Bonnie okay? And, when my supervisor told me this, I'm looking like, am I okay? And she was like, it's out of concern.
Right.
And, we looked at, we didn't tell our manager what, I billed, what my billable hours were this month. Like, we have a certain amount, we're supposed to bill 85%. I won't say what I billed, but it was not 85. It was more than what I was supposed to. But it was a good, it was a reminder that sometimes we forget to take a step back and take care of ourselves. And so one of my accomplishments had to be not be so full. I'm a workaholic. Admittedly, I am a, card carrying, beyond addicted workaholic. And sometimes I have to allow myself to take a step back and, you know what, this can wait until next week. I don't have to do this report now. At the same time, I have to be mindful, as other people do. I'm also one that put the pro in procrastination.
I'm good at that too.
Yeah, so it becomes a finding that, what we typically talk about, that work-life balance. I think when we're dealing with, grief and loss, that we make sure that, we're also mindful of having, that balance between, work and life, or life and events. And so, for me, I allowed myself this weekend to go to Orlando. And a friend of mine who's a comedian, we went to see his show. It was bittersweet because the last time I was at the venue with our Eddie Sass with Eddie was the show that that Sid, our stage name Sid Savage, Carl says, we know him, his real name. It's the last show that Carl is walking into Bloodhound and sitting, looking at the stage and reminiscing the last time. I was here, was Sid's show, and that was 2 weeks before he died. So that was an accomplishment. Allowing myself to just put everything down, forget about work for a moment, and go have fun. Allowing myself, I looked at my supervisor, I want to say it was last Wednesday. I sent her a text message. I'm taking today off. I just need to take today off. And she instantly shot back, yay, yay. Thank you. And on one hand, I felt really crappy about it because we're short-staffed, right? Like everybody else.
Right.
We're down 3 staff members. Another staff member that's on half-time, and we have to pick up the slack. And I was, as I was talking to her today, I'm like, I feel guilty for taking time off. At the same time, I could write that as one of my accomplishments. I took the day off.
Yeah, exactly.
I went into my closet. I have a walk-in closet in my bedroom, and my closet is exploding with clothing. I have no place to hang clothes anymore. It's a good thing. My poor grandchildren that live with me, they have 1 closet. I have 3. But another thing I accomplished, I allowed myself to tap into my inner carpenter. My grandfather was a carpenter. And I installed stacking closet rods. So instead of, the closet rod that's here's the ceiling, then there's a space, and then there's the rod, and then you have all of this dead space. I said, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I am going to put a rod closer to the ceiling and, hang pants, so a lot of, shirts. They only take up this much space. Right. And then underneath that, I'm going to put another rod for slacks. And of course, I was like, I now have double space in my closet. Now I have to figure out where to put all my shoes. So I'm going to build another closet for shoes. But these were accomplishments. And again, you don't think about these little things. It's like, okay, I just organized my closet. No big deal. On the grand scheme of things, it is a big deal because it's allowing yourself to focus on something other than being in your head or dealing with the other I don't want to call it negative stuff, for lack of a better, call it the negative stuff. So yeah, those were two of my accomplishments.
Yeah, I can't. The accomplishments part, really can't think. Okay, maybe this. we've had really crappy weather lately. So I have this, I have an acre and a half of land, quarter an acre in water. But I've wanted to make a garden out of this one area. I do aeroponic gardening also, and that's a different part. And so I finally decided what I wanted to do with it. And so I'm making a permaculture, and then there's a German name which I can't pronounce, mandala garden. And so I had the design, was able to do the outside perimeter. It's like a circle and then circles and anyways. So I got the outside perimeter done, but then we've had such crappy weather, and too cold, I haven't been able to go out and really do anything. But the garden is to get it started, and it'll take a while. Because of having that much property and trees and leaves and whatever, it's using the materials from my property to build the garden, fertilize the garden, get the garden going and stuff. So that was that one. But I did color the vase in our book. That was part of the other homework.
And coloring the vase in our book, we have this back and forth thing. I don't write in my books, or if I do, it is erasable pencil.
But these are made for that. But the funny thing is, and I didn't notice this because I did mine in it's like alcohol-based inks. So on the left, that's the vase, but on the right, that's the page on the other side.
No. But
it bled through. But you know what? When I was like halfway through when I saw that, and I was like, that looks really cool, though.
I love that.
And it's just the reverse side. But if you look at the vase, Rob has another picture, just the vase, and I circled it. Did you notice on the vase there's a crack and a Band-Aid? I never noticed that until I was partway through coloring it. And I was like, that's a crack and a Band-Aid on the crack.
It's very symbolic to, because I think some people would see a vase, it's cracked, and their initial thought would be to throw it
Toss it out.
It's not useful anymore. But then realizing, coming to the realization that anything can be fixed.
And remember last week what you were talking about, your scars?
Yes.
That's what, when I saw that, that's what I was like, that's just like what Bonnie was talking about last week.
As the scar may always be there, it's, you have the reminder of the ordeal. You have the memory of the pain associated with the ordeal. But over time, it becomes tolerable. I look at my scar now, and there are times where I'm like, okay. I jokingly say it's almost hidden by, or it's pronounced, because I have a little pudge right here. So I'm like, it's in your face kind of thing. But that's okay, because I look down and it's a reminder of a time that, was scary, was, potentially stressful, not only on me, because I'm the one that's going into the surgery, but I think about the toll it took on I think it affected my family. My daughter was more emotional about, the surgery and the ordeal than I was. Guys, it'll be fine. But for them, it was one of, my daughter later said, she'd never seen her mom in the hospital before. Mm-hmm. She'd never seen, I'm not supposed to get sick. I'm not supposed, and I hate to say, sick. I'm not supposed to be down for the count, and having to look at your family and say that C word, and what it's going to entail. It's like, oh my gosh. But it's like, okay, let's tap the brakes and process through this. And I think I like being able to have these experiences and using them as teachable moments, because I think it's important too for some people when you are attempting to get some people to focus on their own experiences. It's difficult because the lens that they're looking at is tunneled, it's narrow, in some cases those walls are locked up. Okay, let's look at it this way, and let me use this as an example. And once you're able to, let me look at this as an example, then it's like, oh, I never looked at it like that before, So, yeah.
So cool. So anyways, so I don't know what the homework is going to be for next week yet, but at the end, we're at the end of this first chapter.
We are.
Are rules for survival. And this is kind of like a little bit like what we've gone through before. This is the book. You can get this book again. We do have a QR code somewhere that'll take you right to Amazon. And you can purchase the book off Amazon, and a portion of the proceeds will go to the foundation.
If you do Amazon.
Well, this one, there's two ways to do it.
Okay.
With this QR code, it'll take you directly where we signed up to be an Amazon affiliate,
Okay.
the foundation. So if you use that QR code, that automatically goes to that part of it.
Okay.
If you don't use the QR code, go to smile.amazon.com and choose the foundation as your charity of choice. And then all your purchases, a percentage of the sale price, will be donated from Amazon to the foundation. So there's two different ways that you can do it that way. So, and if you have any questions, contact us, ask us.
Exactly.
We'll direct you.
Oh, yeah.
So, anyways, so the rules for survival it's kind of like what we went through with a couple other books, Dr. Wolfeld's book, also. The last one we did, she also had
Stephanie Jose's book.
Yeah. So
I like that a lot of these rules overlap one another. I also love that if you look at the different focus areas that each book has, or each authors, the point that each author is trying to make, how they will say, well, like Dr. Wolfeld, the Law Survivor Bill of Rights, you're looking at those. But then you come over and I look at, the rules for survival, or, in the other book, it's like I could take this rule and apply it to this Bill of Rights. So it's really nice how the messages tend to fuse with one another. And I'm sure these authors do not know one another.
yeah, I really doubt that it'll say, hey, I'm writing this one. What are you writing?
Right, exactly.
But you can't, and sometimes they're saying the same thing, but in different ways. And people are going to accept the messages in different ways, and that's a really good thing. So like there are several of them here, in which I have always been really bad is drink water. Crying for months on end is really dehydrating.
Well, let's go down them one by one.
Okay.
Because I think it's important to highlight each one. We will find that there's a couple, and I agree, that I would say, oh, that's so me.
Right.
I really need to focus on that. And there's another one that I would see myself, I never really gave any consideration to that.
Right.
So I like the first one where it says, safety first. And he, the example in the book is, talks about, distracted driving. And I don't know how many times You're driving down the road, and for no unforeseen reason, you just burst out in tears, and it's like you got to pull over and take a step back, and or even if it's not just driving in your car, if you're doing something around the house, and mowing the grass. All right, shut the let the lawnmower stop. Take your moment. Have your moment. And then you can always go back and finish the grass later on. Your safety is your safety is important.
Well, and trying to be aware of that. 3 months after Bobby died, I broke my leg, and I thought I was being careful. It was 4th of July, and I just wanted to make try and, because that was like, I guess, the second real holiday after his death. And I just wanted the day to be as normal as possible. And so normally we would have barbecued. So that's what I was doing. I was barbecuing, but I was talking on the phone with my sister-in-law, and I had the phone in my ear like this, and I was trying to get the hot dogs off the grill, and I turned to step to go into the house. Now, I'd lived in the house. How many times have I been in and out that door in 25 years? And I turned, and something happened, and I missed the step, and I went down. And I heard my leg break, and everything go flying. And I ended up with a cast from my toes all the way to my hip. And I was in 3 different casts for like 4 months, and then on crutches. And then the doctor said, "Oh, it's going to take you 6 months to a year to heal." And I was, "Oh no, there's no way." And it was probably a good year. I was on crutches or a cane until December, January of that year. And then 2 years later, I'm walking through the yard, and I fall and I break my wrist. And at that time, all my friends are wanting to wrap me in bubble wrap.
Oh, I bet. And then you talked about drinking water and how crying is really dehydrating. I also find even not crying, it's hard for me to cry. I feel guilty sometimes that I don't.
Yeah, I can cry easy.
Oh, I have those moments where I will let myself cry, but then it's almost like there's a switch that like a light switch that I could just shut off, and it's like, all right, stop crying.
Oh, I can't. No way.
And I attribute it to being able to internalize, which is not always healthy.
No.
Like I said, I think I've said it several times on the show. I had someone tell me once I'm a master at that. But I also think when it comes to drinking water, in addition to how crying can dehydrate you, just staying high, it's healthy for you. I mean, how many times through our life have we heard drink 8 hours, drink 8 ounces of water a day? It's just simple nutrition that we've heard all of our lives.
Yeah, and that's hard to do not going through this, let alone trying to take care of yourself while you're in the midst of deep grief. The next one is move your body in whatever ways you can. It won't solve anything, but movement often brings a little more peace of being.
I chuckled at that one.
Did you? Why?
Well, because I'm thinking to myself, I'm not as flexible as I used to be. But then it makes perfect sense. We're not saying that you have to twist yourself up like a pretzel or be a contortionist or whatnot. Simple things like my favorite. I don't do yoga per se, but there are certain moves that I think are attributed to yoga. Like what is it? The cat stretch. I love just sitting there sometimes and just lying on the floor, tucking my knees underneath me, and just like feeling that whole release of stuff.
Right, and that's what it does too. And
get outside. Being outside in a non-human world is a relief. The trees don't care if you cry. And I look at that's true. Mm-hmm. And, there are times that even, in addition to trees, there are some people that go ahead and cry. Let yourself cry. It's
Right.
okay. I also find, being in nature is a way to just, it's calming. It's a relief, whether I'm crying, whether I am in one of those emotional moments or just deep in thought. Mm-hmm. Just being in nature and just being able to, let things go and, throw caution to the wind and, just let nature take care of this for me.
Well, and that's why I like doing stuff out in my yard. And, around my property, we got these ginormous trees. And down by the lake, I have a hammock hanging in between two of them. I have a bonfire out there. That's why it was so frustrating this weekend when it was so cold and nasty. I couldn't go out and do my new garden project like I wanted to. And that's twofold. I get to make a garden and I get to clean up my yard.
And that's nice because it does bring us to the next one. 10-something, clean out the garden, brush the animals, send a care package. Greg's mom was teaching me how to quilt. And, I sew. I love sewing. But I've never, a couple friends who, are master quilters. And, her name is Chris. Chris showing me how to quilt. And it's almost like having, she's, her husband, Jerry, and then, Greg. She's the only, woman, two guys, and then her. So no daughter. And so having somebody who showed me how to do this, it was, I think, cathartic for her that,
Right.
I've got a woman that I could show this to. And so what I'm finding myself is, calling her, or sending her pictures. Look at what I've got done now. Look at what I've got done now. And this is something that I've never done before, but making, I don't want to say forcing myself because that word force has a negative connotation to it, but forcing myself to sit down at the sewing machine and put blocks together to, finish this project.
Well, it's kind of like even, coloring this vase. I found, I didn't actually do this until Sunday night, but I found listening to music while you're doing some of the stuff is it's kind of meditative. And another book I was reading, there's a music frequency, and you can look it up on YouTube, and it comes up with all these videos and music, and it's really calming and meditative to listen to. The frequencies are 528 hertz and 963 hertz. And if you just put those into YouTube, some of them will have, it has the music, and some of the music goes on for like hours, and it has like a little video and like really cool. Some of them are psychedelic things, and it kind of helps calm you and to get into that little bit more of a relaxation to focus a little bit more.
And, and I like that brings us to the next 2 points. The next 3. Read, shower, and eat. And, for me, when I'm thinking, of the whole, reading part of it, I forgot how relaxing reading can, and mind you, you gotta have the right book.
Right.
But I actually forgot just how relaxing it is to lose yourself in a book. And when she says shower, it goes, really? I sometimes will say, I'm just going to go in and have a nice hot shower or a nice warm shower. Or sometimes I will do even like tepid. It's very not hot, not cold.
I have to have warm.
Well,
almost hot.
No, and trust me, I do. But there are times where a nice tepid shower is so relaxing. I'll start hot and then just dial it back, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is really nice. And for me, eating that's a bad one for me. I could say I'm hungry, and 6 hours later, I'm like, 6 hours ago you said you were hungry.
Right. And do not turn your anger on yourself. Notice if you're angry, call it what it is, but don't turn it on yourself.
That's a huge one for people.
It is. And, I noticed that with me. And it's, I realized that my anger, it's the grief.
What I find too is, a lot of the anger is, I could have done more. It's my fault. The anger at the person. How could you do this to me? Us. It becomes personal.
Right.
We make it personal. Darn you! You did this to me. And I like as we wind this down to our last half a minute. Saying no to things and saying yes to things, and this goes back to what we were talking about in the beginning. Of the show. Finding that nice balance. Between what makes you happy and not overcommitting yourself or undercommitting yourself.
And that's okay. It's okay to do that.
Yes.
You have to. It's the self-care.
It is.
And
speaking of self-care, don't forget, we always remind you about the suicide lines.
Suicide prevention lines. Make sure that you have these numbers in your phone. You just never know when you'll need it, and share it with other people.
And just remember
There's always hope. Thanks.